The roles. Like, share, and subscribe. Isaac Newton, the supreme genius character in the history of science. Isaac Newton is best known for his theory about the law of gravity, but his Principia Mathematica 1686 with its 3 laws of motion greatly influenced the Enlightenment in Europe. Born in 1643 in Woolsthorpe, England, Sir Isaac Newton began developing his theories on light, calculus, and celestial mechanics, all on break from Cambridge University. Years of research culminated with the 1687 publication of Principia, a landmark work that established the universal laws of motion and gravity. Newton's second major book, Optics, detailed his experiments to determine the properties of light. Also a student of biblical history and alchemy, the famed scientist served as president of the Royal Society of London and master of England's Royal Mint until his death in 1727. Isaac Newton was born on January 4, 1643, in Woolsthorpe, Lincolnshire, England. The son of a farmer who died 3 months before he was born, Newton spent most of his early years with his maternal grandmother after his mother remarried. His education was interrupted by a failed attempt to turn him into a farmer, and he attended the King's School in Grantham before enrolling at the University of Cambridge's Trinity College in 1661. Newton studied a classical curriculum at Cambridge, but he became fascinated by the works of modern philosophers such as René Descartes. Even devoting a set of notes to his outside readings, he titled Questions Quaedam Philosophicae, certain philosophical questions. When the Great Plague shuttered Cambridge in 1665, Newton returned home and began formulating his theories on calculus, light, and color. His farm the setting for the supposed falling apple that inspired his work on gravity. Newton returned to Cambridge in 1667 and was elected a minor fellow. He constructed the first reflecting telescope in 1668, and the following year, he received his Master of Arts degree and took over as Cambridge's location professor of mathematics. Asked to give a demonstration of his telescope to the Royal Society of London in 1671, he was elected to the Royal Society the following year and published his notes on optics for his peers. Through his experiments with refraction, Newton determined that white light was a composite of all the colors on the spectrum, and he asserted that light was composed of particles instead of waves. His methods drew sharp rebuke from established society member Robert Hooke, who was unsparing again with Newton's follow-up paper in 1675. Known for his temperamental defense of his work, Newton engaged in heated correspondence with Hooke before suffering a nervous breakdown and withdrawing from the public eye in 1678. In the following years, he returned to his earlier studies on the forces governing gravity and dabbled in alchemy. In 1684, English astronomer Edmund Halley paid a visit to the secluded Newton. Upon learning that Newton had mathematically worked out the elliptical paths of celestial bodies, Halley urged him to organize his notes. The result was the 1687 publication of Philosophiae Naturalis, Principia Mathematica, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, which established the 3 laws of motion and the law of universal gravity. Newton's 3 laws of motion state that 1. Every object in a state of uniform motion will remain in that state of motion unless an external force acts on it. To force equals mass times acceleration, F equals ma3. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Principia propelled Newton to stardom in intellectual circles, eventually earning universal acclaim as one of the most important works of modern science. His work was a foundational part of the European Enlightenment. Isaac Newton, with his newfound influence, Newton opposed the attempts of King James II to reinstitute Catholic teachings at English universities. King James II was replaced by his Protestant daughter Mary and her husband William of Orange as part of the Glorious Revolution of 1688, and Newton was elected to represent Cambridge in Parliament in 1689. Newton moved to London permanently after being named Warden of the Royal Mint in 1696, earning a promotion to Master of the Mint 3 years later. Determined to prove his position wasn't merely symbolic, Newton moved the pound sterling from the silver to the gold standard and sought to punish counterfeiters. The death of Hooke in 1703 allowed Newton to take over as President of the Royal Society, and the following year, he published his second major work, Optics, composed largely from his earlier notes on the subject. The book detailed Newton's painstaking experiments with refraction and the color spectrum, closing with his ruminations on such matters as energy and electricity. In 1705, he was knighted by Queen Anne of England. Newton was also an ardent student of history and religious doctrines, and his writings on those subjects were compiled into multiple books that were published posthumously. Having never married, Newton spent his later years living with his niece at Cranberry Park near Winchester, England. He died in his sleep on March 31, 1727, and was buried in Westminster Abbey.